If you missed last week, let me catch you up because I hate when people feel lost in a message. We started a series called ReGift. And last week, I just asked this question: is it possible that in the midst of all of our busyness and everything that has to happen and all the Christmas parties to attend and the presents to buy and in all the busyness of the season, is it entirely possible that we miss the wonder of the season? And so we looked at the Christmas story last week from Luke chapter 2, and we said, what would it look like if all of us just reawakened our hearts to the wonder that is Christmas? We asked God to open our eyes to see again the gift of wonder that he has in store for us through the Christmas season. Today, I want to go a completely different angle with it, and I want to talk to you about what we're supposed to do with the gift of Christmas. What does it look like to do with the gift that God has given us? Now, I don't know how you are, but my love language, the way that I tend to show love to people, is actually through just kind of joking with them, through messing with them. Like, you will know that I love you if I prank you. That's how I tend to roll. And I am blessed with some amazing in-laws. Now, I know some people like to crack on their in-laws, and my in-laws and I, we rubbed, we had some issues early on, but I think that's just because I married their daughter. I have a daughter now. I kind of get it. If anyone gets close to my daughter, I don't want anything to do with them. And so we've worked through all of those issues, and now I absolutely love my in-laws. And my in-laws are fun. My mother-in-law in particular, she's just really fun to mess with. She should know that I love her by how much I mess with her. Now, my mother-in-law she's just a beautiful woman. It gives me unbelievable hope. Guys, don't they teach you when you're getting engaged and looking at a girl, always look at the mother? Has anyone taught you that before? If you get nothing else, you can leave now. If you're single, look at the mother-in-law before you get married. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. You know what I'm saying? Just go. Not in the Bible, but just it's fine. Here is a picture of my mother-in-law. No, go back. You missed one. There's this one here. And this one is just a beautiful picture of my mother-in-law. She's a beautiful woman. And not only is she beautiful, but she loves taking care of herself. She's pretty naturally, but she's that person that probably spends far too long making sure she looks pretty. And so a few years ago now, I was at a wedding with her, and we were outside. It was one of those outdoor weddings, and we were sitting at a table, and it was just this hot summer day, and the heat of the day and the humidity of the day, her hair got really frizzy, and she was so self-conscious, so unbelievably worried about her appearance. Every time I'd look at her, she'd have a mirror, and she was trying to fix every strand of hair, and she would fix it, and it would just boing, go right back to where it was. And so at one point, she was turned away from me, and I got my camera out, and I said, hey, mom, look. And she turned around and looked, and she saw my camera, and this is the picture. You got a sneak peek of it. This is the picture I took of her. Now, I don't think this is that bad, but she thinks this is the worst picture ever. She despises this picture. Just so you know, guys, I got my wife's permission to show this picture because I ain't trying to die. You know what I'm saying? But since I found out that she hates this picture, this has become my Christmas present to her every year for the last several years. The first year, and I didn't tell my wife this, I just started doing it. Why? Because I show love through messing with people. And so the first year, I took this picture and I printed it on a large canvas, the kind that people spend a lot of money, and I just wrapped it up. And so my mother-in-law, when she opens the gift, she's like, oh, a canvas. Oh, I love your family's pictures. I can't wait to see. And she opened it, and it's I thought she was going to pass out, honestly. And so then after she opened the gift, she kind of put it off to the side. And so when she wasn't looking, I took a picture off of their wall, the one above the mantle, the main picture, and I replaced it with this. And then I hid the real picture. I just hid it so she couldn't find it, so that was cool. I've done this every year for the last few years. Let me just tell you the things I've done. I've done the canvas. I've done a Christmas ornament. I did a large blanket last year, really big blanket. That was awesome. I found a company that will take a drawing or a picture and they'll make a stuffed animal out of it that looks exactly like it. Did that one year. Okay, can I tell you what I'm going to do this year? Okay, can you keep a secret? Everybody promise, keep a secret? Okay, I totally got my wife's permission for this too. You know those pants that women wear, the leggings, yoga pants? I found a company that makes yoga pants, and so this year, here's a picture of them. And I bought 2 pairs. One for her, And I'm thinking about wearing tearaway pants at Christmas. So when she opens it, it's like, ba-bam, Merry Christmas. So anyways, I might not be here in January. Just wanted you, if you don't see me in January, just you'll know what happened, okay? It brings me joy. It brings me such joy to do this. I have an idea for next year. I'm going to get a full-size shower curtain, and I'm not going to wrap a present. I'm just going to put it in the bathroom when they're not paying attention, and I'm going to push it all the way to one side so she won't know. And then my thought was, I'll go all the way through Christmas with opening presents, and she's nervous now. She opens presents like really skeptically, like what's in this? And I'm just going to let a whole Christmas go by, and she'll be like, Jason, you didn't prank me. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm just so immature. Who would do that, right? And then we just wait. If you have any ideas, my email address is jason@access.tv. Holler at your boy. I'm running out of ideas. It's going to be important. Now, we have this love-hate relationship with this. It brings me such joy to do this. She hates it. I don't even really care at this point. It's just fun for me. We do it. Now, every time we do this, I can't even tell you, like, the disdain I see in her face. I think she just thinks to herself. She doesn't say it. I just think she thinks to herself, why did we say yes when he asked for permission to marry Liz? I think it's the feeling I get when I see her face in that moment. She hates it. Now, here's what I know. When I give her these gifts, there is nothing inside of her that thinks to herself, you know, I could just keep this and I could give it to someone else. She doesn't. In fact, I don't think it makes it 30 minutes before it's in the trash. I spend a lot of money for something that's going to get thrown away. But it brings me great joy, but it brings her no joy at all. And because it brings her no joy, she doesn't share it. She's never posted a picture of this online. It embarrasses her. She'll never share this at all. It brings me joy. I might share it. She won't share it. Does it make sense? Everybody understand? When you get a gift that you love, isn't the natural reaction to share it, to tell people about it? Don't you come back after your Christmas break, whatever that looks like for you, and you stand around the water cooler and you tell your friends, like, what was your favorite thing about the Christmas season? Did you get anything you love? Were you able to give a gift that was special to you? We share the things we love. And did you ever notice you don't defend the things you love? You just share them. You just share them. If people love it, great. If they don't love it, it doesn't matter because you love it and you just share the thing that you love. At Christmas, it's amazing to me how the thing, the story, the moment that forever shaped human history, the moment where God said, listen, I see the brokenness of the world, and so what I'll do is I'll step in. I'll intervene. And where Jesus steps into humanity, John chapter 1 in the Message translation says that in the beginning, God put on flesh and blood and he moved into our neighborhood. In this season where we celebrate the fact that God said, I see the problems of the world and I'll step in. I see the problems of the world, and I know that humanity doesn't need a counselor, doesn't need a doctor, doesn't need a lawyer to negotiate the payment for your sins. What humanity needs is a Savior. So God sends Jesus to us, and it's this gift that we've been given. And today I want to argue that it is entirely possible that we get so far removed from that gift and the wonder and the beauty of that gift that we never take the gift and regift it. We never take the gift and we never share what's happened in the moment. In the book of John chapter 4, there's this fascinating story. It's not a Christmas story, just an amazing story. It is the longest transcribed conversation we have between Jesus and another individual. Certainly there were probably longer ones, but this is the longest one we actually have written in the Bible, and let me kind of set you up on what's happening. Jesus and his disciples were out doing some sort of ministry, and in John chapter 4, the chapter starts with Jesus and his disciples walking back to wherever they were going, and along the way, the disciples got hungry, and so they decided to pull off at McDonald's for a few minutes, and Jesus kept going. He just kept walking without them. And he walked through this place called Samaria. Now, Samaria was interesting in the time of the Bible because there was this unbelievably socioeconomic difference between the people of Samaria and the Jews. In fact, the Jewish people looked down upon the people of Samaria. That they wouldn't want anything to do with them. And Jesus is walking through this town and he comes upon a well. Now, wells were unbelievably important in the time of the Bible because that's where you got water. You didn't have a tap in your refrigerator to fill up your cup. You didn't have a faucet to turn on the sink. You had to go out to the well. So the well was this place that really sustained life because you have to have water in order to live. And so Jesus is walking through town at midday, and as he's on his way to this place, he sees this well, and there's this woman sitting there by herself. Now, this is interesting for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's interesting that she's there in the middle of the day. And the reason it's of significance is most people in that culture, they would kind of leave town and go on the outskirts of town to the well early in the morning or in the late hours of the evening. And the reason was it was just hot. The Middle Eastern sun would just cook you. And so these people would go in groups with their friends in the morning or at night, but she's by herself in the heat of the day. Why is that? Maybe she's hiding something. Maybe she's carrying some shame and condemnation. Maybe she just doesn't want to be around this group of people. So Jesus comes up and he sits down at the well and he asks the lady for a drink. Now it's fascinating again. It's fascinating because Jesus asked this woman for a drink. Here's the reasons. Number one, in that culture, men really didn't speak to women. They looked down upon women. And in a culture right now, especially in America, that is like the women are rightfully rising up. Their voice is stepping up against the injustice that is done. Jesus smashes through this barrier and he talks to this woman, like, if you're here and you don't love Jesus, there is a reason to love Jesus, that there is no inequality, that everyone is welcome in conversation with Jesus. And so he talks to her. She's a woman and she's a Samaritan. And he talks to her. And when he talks to this lady, he asks her for a drink, and she says, "Sir, why are you even talking to me?" And they have this long conversation, and Jesus in the conversation reads her mail. He knows what she's going through. He knows why she's sitting at the well in the middle of the day, in the Middle Eastern heat of the day. He knows why she's sitting there. And Jesus absolutely reads her mail, and he basically says to her, "Listen, here's what you don't understand. I'm asking you for a drink, something that will temporarily satisfy me, but I have something that I can give you that will for eternity satisfy you. I can give you a drink of living water that will refresh your soul forever. I know why you're here. I know why you're here. You're here because you've been married 5 times. Those all ended in divorce, and now you're with another person who you're not even married to." This woman was carrying unbelievable shame from her past. Jesus reads her mail. The Bible's funny. I don't know if you understand the Bible when you read it. The Bible's full of humor. The King James translation of the Bible essentially says, the woman responds, "Well, surely I seeth thou art a prophet." And it's like, of course, it's Jesus. And Jesus reveals that he is the Son of God. He reveals himself, who he really is, to this woman, and she is amazed. And that's usually where the story stops. Usually if you go to a church, you hear the story, and it's that Jesus talks to this woman. He gives her the gift of eternal life. He forgives her of her sins. And that's normally where pastors and preachers will tend to let off on the story. But to me, the rest of the story is fascinating. The story goes on to say this. John chapter 4, verse 27. "Just then, Jesus' disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with the woman." This is just not something that happened culturally. But no one asked, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking to her?" Now, this is an interesting moment because the disciples essentially dishonor Jesus. I don't know if you've ever noticed when you're a guest at a place that values honor, don't the people that are there that are hosting you or honoring, don't they show you honor in a special kind of way? Hey, can I get you something to drink? Hey, can I get you something to eat? My mother-in-law, the one I just poked fun at, she has like the greatest gift of hospitality of almost anyone I've ever met. Like, she is that stereotypical Italian woman who she'll say, "Can I get you something to eat?" And you say no, and she says, "Well, I'll just fix you a small something." You know what I mean? Like, that's my love language right there. And so these disciples come back to Jesus, and they're like, they don't even ask him what's happening. They don't try to understand the moment. They just say, what do you want? No one asks, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking to her?" But instead, the verse goes on to say this: "Then leaving her water jar," I want you to notice this first part, leaving her water jar, this innocuous detail that seems like it's not that big of a deal. She leaves her water jar. The woman went back to the town, and she said to the people, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" Now, this moment is significant. The verse says that the woman is like so impacted by her conversation with Jesus. She's so impacted by the encounter that she had with Jesus that the verse says that she leaves her water jar. Now, if you just read this doesn't seem like that big of a deal because it's a jar. But what you understand when you understand the culture in which they live is this jar was significant because it was a source that helped sustain their life. It was a source that helped to keep them alive. She leaves her water jar. The closest modern equivalent that I could get would be this. Imagine that you were sitting at lunch with a friend and you have this encounter that is so unbelievably significant that you leave behind something that matters to you that people would gladly walk by and take. You leave your wallet loaded with your credit cards. You leave your phone. You leave your MacBook Pro. You leave your iPad. Something that matters to you that someone would gladly walk by, pick up, and put it in their pocket and keep walking. You just leave it. Why? Because in that moment, that thing that you have doesn't matter nearly as much as sharing the encounter that you had. That thing that you have tangible doesn't matter in comparison to that thing you have that is eternal. And so the woman leaves her water jar. She runs into town, which is just right around the corner. She runs into town and says, could this be the Messiah? Verse 30. They came out of the town and made their way to him. Keep going. Meanwhile, his disciples urged him, Rabbi, eat something. Like this, Jesus is having this eternal moment, and the disciples are having this everyday moment. Jesus, just why don't you grab something to eat? But he said to them, I have food to eat that you know nothing about. And the disciples are like, hold up, you got a granola bar or something? Like, did you stop at Subway on the way? What happened? And he keeps going, verse 33. Then his disciples said to each other, could someone have brought him some food? Like, I'm confused as to what happened. Verse 34, my food, said Jesus, is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Like, I'm thinking about something on a different level than you're thinking. You're thinking about temporary, I'm thinking about eternal. You're thinking about immediate, I'm thinking about ultimate. There is something of significance that's happening in this moment that you can't understand. Verse 35, don't you have a saying, it's still 4 months till harvest? And then Jesus lays these 3 words on them that are so significant. In fact, this is all I want to talk about today. Jesus lays these 3 words on them. I tell you, open your eyes. Open your eyes. Like, you're not seeing what's happening in this moment, so open your eyes. You're not aware of the reality that's happening all around you. You're so self-focused. In fact, you've gotten nearsighted in this moment. Open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for the harvest. The story goes on to say that many of the people that the woman brought back with her made the decision to follow Jesus. Why? Because of an encounter that a woman had at a well where she said, I can't keep this to myself, but instead I have to take it, I have to share it, I have to do something with it. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to an optometrist, to an eye doctor before, but some years ago, my eyes got really jacked up. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was overuse of computer. Maybe it was just terrible genetics. I don't know what it was. But my eyes went from perfect 20/20 vision to really, really terrible astigmatism in the course of just really what felt like a few months. And so I hated this. I hated it. So first of all, I went to an optometrist to get my eyes checked to see what was wrong. And I made a terrible mistake. I went to an optometrist at Sam's Club. Now, I'm sure they're good, but I don't think it's a wise idea to go for medical advice at a place where you can buy bulk Fruit Loops. Just another freebie there for you. But I go, and if you've ever been to the optometrist, it is a weird situation. Have you been before? The first thing they do is they put drops in your eyes to dilate your eyes. And then you can't see anything. And you're like, I'm here because I can't see anything. And then they make it worse for you, right? And then they do all the tests. The doctor gets all up in your face and looks in your eyes, and you're like, bro, either get up out of my face or get you a breath mint. You know what I'm saying? And then, have you had the thing where they puff air in your eyes? Have you had that before? That is just, no one prepares you for that. It just hits you in the eye and it hurts. A couple years after this test, I went for another test at a different doctor's office where I was going to get LASIK surgery, and they dilated my eyes so bad I couldn't see for hours. At one point, I went to the restroom and I stood at a urinal and I whispered this prayer, Lord, please let this be the urinal, because I can't really tell. I'm going to be honest about that. I was blinded. And they did all these tests, and eventually the doctors came back. Both the doctor at Sam's and the doctor who would eventually do my LASIK eye surgery came back, and they said, you've got terrible astigmatism. They said, really, the truth is you're nearsighted and you have terrible astigmatism. I said, well, what does that mean? Well, astigmatism means you can't really see much with clarity, but nearsighted means that you can see the stuff pretty good up close, but you can't really see the things off in the distance very well. And in this moment, I understood something that Jesus was saying to his disciples. He was saying to his disciples, open your eyes. It is entirely possible that you're missing the beauty of what's happening here in this moment because you become spiritually nearsighted. What does that mean? It means you only care about the things that concern you. You say, well, how do I know if I'm spiritually nearsighted? Well, here's a test for you. If God answered all of your prayers, would it change the world, or would it just change things for you? Jesus says to his disciples, open your eyes. because you're spiritually nearsighted. You're only thinking about the temporary. You're only thinking about this moment, but there is something else greater that's happening in this moment. Jesus forever alters the course of this woman's destiny. She experiences the beauty of what the Christmas story is all about, that a Savior stepped into time, a Savior stepped into the world for her. She experiences it, and then what is her response? I've got to share. I've got to re-gift this thing. Someone else needs to hear about it because I can't keep this for myself any longer. The reality about most Christians, at least in America, is this, is that maybe you had an experience with Jesus at some point in your life. Maybe for you it was as a kid sitting in a Sunday school classroom with an elderly lady teaching about Jonah and the whale. Maybe that was your moment. Maybe for you it happened for you as an adult. I don't know when it happened for you, but maybe it's happened for you. And the reality is that time's passed. And what happens with time is time tends to dull our senses. Time tends to dull our memory. And so over time, what happened is that encounter you had with Jesus at the figurative well of your life, that moment that forever altered and changed the course of your life, that moment was burned into your memory at one point. It was easy to share because you don't defend the things you love, you just share them. And so you would share the beauty of that moment freely. And then what happened over time? That moment faded away. It got dull, and many people, you know the song Amazing Grace, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Many people forget what it was like to be lost, and they never share the joy of being found. So today I want to challenge you to do what Jesus said to his disciples. I want to challenge you to open your eyes. And this week, as we approach the Christmas season, as we're a mere 15 days away from Christmas, I want to challenge you to open your eyes, to ask God to help you to move past being spiritually nearsighted so you can see the needs around you. Christmas, like Easter, is one of the two great times in the year where people's hearts are so receptive to the message of who Jesus is, and I would hate for you to miss the opportunity of sharing the beauty of what God's done for you with those around you. So here's what I want to challenge you to do. This week, I'm going to challenge you to pray 3 specific things. This week, I'm going to challenge you to pray, God, open my eyes. Open my eyes. And number 1, I want you to pray, help me to see, open my eyes to the plan. See, what I believe is that God has a plan. God has a plan to change the world. And can I tell you what the plan is? The plan is you. And the plan is me. And God's plan is that the local church, which means not a building but the people, would eventually be the tool that he uses to make a difference, to spread the message of hope throughout the world. God has a plan, and his plan is you. In fact, look what Paul says in the book of Ephesians. In the book of Ephesians, Paul says it like this, Ephesians 3:10, his, being God's intent, was that now through the church, through the people of God, which means through you, the manifold or the full wisdom of God would be made known. God's intention was that you and I would be the plan. We would be the tool that he uses to make a difference in the world. Look what Paul says again in the book of 2 Corinthians. He says it like this, we are therefore Christ's ambassadors. What is an ambassador? Simply a representative. We are Christ's representatives, as though God were making his appeal through us. We are his ambassadors. We are his helpers. We are those that he uses to make a difference in the world. The second thing I want to challenge you to pray is this. I want you to pray that God will just help you to see his plan. The second thing is open my eyes to lost people. The reality is that there are lost people all around us. All around us. Everywhere from the barista that knows your name and knows your coffee order, to your kid's elementary teacher, to the people that are in your neighborhood. You know people who have no connection to God whatsoever, and many of us, we don't even see them anymore. Why? You've just gotten so used to it. God, open my eyes to the lost people around me. I don't know if you've ever lost someone that matters to you. A few weeks ago, I was at a party, and my wife was out singing somewhere, and I had my kids. And it was time to leave, and so I saw my 2 boys, Joey and Gavin, and I said, Ella, where are you? No response. No big deal. I thought she was maybe upstairs. I ran upstairs, searched every room, and there was no Ella. And this party had several people in and out, really quickly, just in and out, and I thought to myself, oh no. And for a moment, every evil, terrible thought flashed through my mind. What if she's gone? What if she's missing? What if someone snagged her? She's the cutest thing ever. What if someone snagged her? And for about a minute and a half, every conceivable, terrible thought flashed through my mind. What if she's gone? Let me tell you what happened in that moment. I was so focused on her that I never stopped to think, the good news is I've still got my 2 sons. I know where they are, right? I never did that. Why? Because in that moment, all of my focus wasn't on what I had, it's on what was missing. And I think when God looks down from heaven, that's the same feeling he feels. He looks down from heaven and he's thankful for all of you and me who are found, but his heart breaks. His focus is squarely upon those who are missing, who are lost, who are separated from him. But look what Jesus said in the book of Luke. Jesus said it like this: for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. He didn't just come so the lost would find him. He came to seek and save. What would it look like if you and I were intentional about going out and being the seekers, those who go out and look and find? The third prayer is this: God, I ask you to open my eyes to the opportunities. If you'll pray this way this week, let me tell you what I believe will happen. I believe that God will orchestrate unbelievably poignant moments in your life. They're going to feel coincidental until you begin to realize that God is actually behind the scenes moving the pieces together. Let me tell you one quick story, then I'm going to pray with you. For the last really couple years, I've been praying for an opportunity and working on it to share my faith with a couple guys who cut my hair. I go to these guys every couple 2 or 3 weeks. And this week, I came in at the very end of the guy before me getting his haircut. And as he was leaving, it was an elderly man, as he was leaving, as soon as the door shut, the other guy, not the one cutting my hair, but the other guy said, I hate bleeping Christians like him. I was like, hold up, cool. What happened? He goes on to tell me that one of the guys in the shop said he's going to San Francisco, and this elderly Christian man, probably well-intended, not gonna judge his intention, but this elderly Christian man went on a tirade about the terrible darkness, about the sin associated with San Francisco. I could go into all of it, but it's infuriating what this man said. And I had this moment. You see, every moment that feels like an obstacle is an opportunity, and I felt like God opened the door so unbelievably wide for me. And in this moment, I stepped through it, and I said, listen, I know that you're upset right now, but that guy doesn't represent the heart of so many people like me, people in my church who are profoundly followers of Jesus. And it opened the door. And I've invited him to Christmas Eve. And both of them said they'll try to come. I'm going to get another haircut before Christmas Eve. I might not need one, but I'm going to get one. Because when you pray for opportunities, God's going to give you opportunities. You and I have to be people who take advantage of the opportunities. What would it look like if all of us were just these kind of people? Look what Peter says in one of his books, 2 Peter. Peter says this, 1 Peter 3:15, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. Always be ready, because you never know, like if there is something different about you, if you've experienced the wonder and the hope of the Christmas season, then be ready to give an answer for it. Be ready to share. Well, let me offer you this thought. Here's what I'm asking all of you to do. I'm asking all of you to do 2 things in this Christmas season. The first thing is this. I want you to start praying for people in your life, that God would open an opportunity for you to either share your faith or secondly, to be a bringer. If you'll bring them, we're going to share the message of Jesus in this Christmas season. And my prayer is that we see dozens of people make the decision to follow him. The second thing is this. Over these next 14 days, I'm inviting all of you to have 30 seconds of insane courage. You say, what does that mean? Well, for so many people, the idea of sharing their faith is so hard. Jesus makes it easy. Acts 1:8, Jesus says, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Well, what is a witness? Just someone who tells what they've experienced. What would it look like for you and me if we just had 30 seconds of insane courage where we just shared what Jesus has done for us and then invite them to experience it for themselves this Christmas season? As a church, we work really hard to help you. In fact, you should have gotten these cards that say, sit with me. This is an easy way. We want to challenge you to use your Facebook and your social media this week. We want to challenge you to actually not just be a coward behind a computer. I mean, that's a good start. But beyond that, like actually use your voice and invite somebody. And let's see what God can do through you. And let's see what God can do through me as we partner with him. We open our eyes to what he's doing. Would you bow your head and close your eyes all across this room? I want to pray with you now. God, would you awaken our eyes? Help us to see the world that you see. Not to be so spiritually nearsighted that all we pray about is stuff that affects us, but may we have the courage to see past our nearsightedness and to see the world around us who desperately needs your saving grace. So God, in this Christmas season, I pray that we will be your ambassadors, that we'll do everything we can to reach people who are far from you. We love you, God. In Jesus' name.